Welcome to This Dream Is Yours. You know, I've been contemplating what I wanted to do with this series, and I've come to the conclusion that I've had amazing guests, 13 of them, 13 fabulous conversations, and I've learned 13 epic lessons. And I wanted to take this day to sort of compile it all together for you and tell you my big takeaways. And my big takeaways are going to, it was crazy how each person had something different to tell me that really made a difference in my life over the last year and a half. This show, This Dream Is Yours, has been a dream for me. It's something I've always wanted to do. From a little child to today, I've always wanted to be like, for those of you who are older, Ann Landers. For those of you who are younger, like Oprah. I always wanted to interview people and pull from them great information and learn every day. I love learning. So this has been quite the experience. And what's really sort of taken my breath away is the fact that each person had a unique experience. I always thought that for me to grow, I would have to have these, like if you think about Tony Robbins or people that have had huge success, they all came from some massive struggle. And I didn't. So I thought, how do I have big success? How do I learn big stories without having trauma? Because a lot of trauma is what pushes us through growth. But here's some, we're going to share some great things that I've learned. I hope you enjoy it. And, who knows what I'm going to do next. This is all up in the air right now, but next year is going to be a big year for me. I'm getting married, woohoo, and my son's getting married, and life is moving forward. So I wanted to make sure that I sewed this up with a nice little bow right at the end so that you understand what it meant to me, and I hope you get something great from it too.
Come on, let's go. I don't know what comes next, but I couldn't care less. I refuse to feel stressed. There's no fear in my chest. Here to pull from my steps. Walk away from the pain I've been through. This feeling I'm feeling is brand new. This is the moment I break through. I don't know what comes next, but I couldn't care less. I refuse to feel stressed. There's no fear in my chest.
When I started the show, I wanted to have Jennifer Johnson, the artist, as my first guest. And she's my friend. I've collected her art for over 25 years. I just didn't know what she was going to tell me because as friends, you don't go into deep dives necessarily on your philosophy and what's important to you in life. And with each one of my guests, I came away with a single word that helped me sum up that interview. And with Jennifer Johnson, it was identity. It was become who you are meant to be. And one of the things that she said that really stuck with me is how she's created these pieces of art with giant wings. She did one for me, and she said, you have to let your children fly. You have to let them have their dreams. You have to step back, shut up, and watch, and let them fail, let them grow, and let them blossom. And that was the biggest takeaway for me. Instead of trying to control, relax, and let them become their own person, create their own identity. I know you're a mother, and I'm a mother. And do you find sometimes when you're listening to yourself that you're almost squashing your children's dreams in weird ways? Like, you're trying to build them up, but maybe you're also trying to steer them in a specific direction when that's your talk track to yourself.
Yes. Definitely.
You want what's best for them in your mind, which may not be what ignites them or sparks them in their mind.
I try really hard not to do that. My parents did that with me. And that's when I came up with that sculpture that has my flying hearts, because I wanted that as a reminder that every single time I talk to my kids, I am giving them wings to go fly and be creative and do whatever makes them happy, heart and soul. I don't care what it is. They need to be happy to fulfill their own life. And so that flying heart symbol that I constantly am recreating
I have two of those.
Comes from that.
Or three of those around the house here. So outdoors and inside.
It is my reminder not to ever dictate the direction that my kids go. And I may not be totally happy with the decisions they make, but I'm happy that they're fulfilled and having a good life.
So I'm going to take that to heart because sometimes I think I go
It's
into
tough.
It's hard. I go into dictate mode. Strong suggestions, right?
Right.
I strongly suggest.
It's hard not to.
So my second guest was Laura Merrill. Laura Merrill is a client of mine, and she called me one day and said that she was doing something crazy. I'm like, what are you doing? She goes, you're not going to believe it, but I built a house in Costa Rica. So for me, I was like, what? You're here, you're a nurse. How do you have a background in building a house in Costa Rica? Not only did she build a house in Costa Rica, but she built a fabulous place. She had a wild adventure, and she had a lot of courage. So courage was the word I took away from this, because for me, sometimes I have to know everything about something before I do it. And if that were the case in this scenario, it never would have happened for Laura. She jumped in and she took action, and action takes courage. So if you take anything away from this episode with Laura Merrill, know that having courage and taking your first steps is absolutely what you have to do to get going.
Went ahead and put an offer in. It was just sort of, all right, let's see what happens. It was an amazing trip. That was the trip where I did a lot of just exploring of that area. The day of walking on the beach and seeing my little sloth friend hanging out in the trees, which was so neat. And then as I'm just all aglow from seeing that guy. And then I'm walking further down, and a random sign on, by the beach in Spanish basically says, the change starts today. And I was like, oh, that's kind of a cool
got
little
goosies on that.
sign, right? And so I had been chitty-chatting with my financial advisor of just...
I totally got goosebumps on that one. Because there's always some subliminal message.
There is,
When
right?
I think you're dreaming towards something, you get a message and it just feels authentic.
Right.
And so, but so many people will have that authentic message and they don't take a step.
Right.
And it's that one step to
My
act.
third guest was Rachel Hills, a beautiful interior decorator and designer, and just a wonderful person on the inside. And in our conversation, I know Rachel on the surface level, but I really got to know her heart on this conversation, because I learned that she felt of herself. She thought of herself as an overcomer, not a victim, but an overcomer. And I love that word. It really stuck with me, because I feel like so many people get sucked into victimhood about how things are happening to them. But as an overcomer, the power comes back to you. And I felt like the word with Rachel was resilience. She was resilient, and she stepped into being an overcomer. So if you can do that, you're on the right track.
I think, you often hear the term survivor, right? I'm a survivor, I'm this survivor. And I choose to use the word overcomer, because to me, there's a difference between surviving something, surviving cancer. That's cancer, you went through cancer and you lived, you survived. But overcoming, as you took that opportunity, I have not had cancer, but things, difficulties in young childhood, taking those things, those terrible things that happened, and turning them into, I'm going to make my life better. I'm going to work through this. I'm going to make life better for my children, my grandchildren. That's overcoming, right? And so I want people to know that I'm an overcomer. Like, bad stuff happened in my life, but I don't look at that and go, I'm a victim. I look at that and go, I wouldn't trade any of that stuff, as hard as it was, because I love who I am now. I love that I have a story that I can tell my children.
My fourth guest was Brandon Brodzky. Brandon is one of those guys that secretly I just want to be him. He showed up for the interview in shorts and a baseball cap and was his authentic self. And what Brandon's always wanted to do with his life is he's always wanted to be present for his children. He's always wanted to have an intentional life. It's never been about excess. It's always been about being present and living in the moment with his children. Even when he didn't have children, he envisioned his family and his life as being a certain way. And he held that vision and he accomplished that vision. So I think it's really important that you live intentionally. So keep that in mind and pay attention to what Brandon has to say. So my last question for you is this.
Whatever.
It feels like some people will say there is never a balanced life.
you don't have a balanced life. You're always counterbalancing. But to me, if there's one person out there, it feels like you have a pretty balanced life. And I think that is 100% by choice and by design. Is there something else that you use to keep your life balanced? Is there some mantra that you have in your head, or you said you meditate?
Yeah, I try to just take care of myself, and I try to always go back to this equilibrium of what really matters to you, and trying to, you point the balance out. And like some of my people might focus on a bank account or some other form of validation to how they're living their life. And I go back to like the balance bank, and it's like the give and the take of what you're going to spend your time on versus not. And obviously, like, I'm a human. Like, I appreciate that you acknowledge that, and it means a lot, but I'm not perfect by any means. I have a balanced life by design. I try to keep it that way. I slip up sometimes, but I always try to get back to that balance bank and be like, okay, let's
Everyone
reel it in.
Rach
Reel
might
it
say
in.
that's enough duck for now.
Yeah, she doesn't.
My fifth guest on This Dream Is Yours was Kyle Finley, and I have to say he was one of my favorites. Why? Because his personality is infectious, but he's filled with faith. And when you're filled with faith, you emanate some kind of interior joy out to everyone else. And when I came away from that interview, I was joyous, to be honest. And my biggest takeaway was, if you're not sure of your direction, have faith. Believe in God and focus on asking God with gratitude what he wants you to do next. So if you're not sure, put it out to the big guy and see what he has to say, and pay attention to this interview with Kyle, because honestly, it was my favorite.
How were you so confident that whole time that this was going to work? And I'm like, why? What? I didn't.
How were you so confident the whole time?
Because I didn't care if it worked or not. Like, God had us the whole time, I guess. So I call it, I don't want to say call it luck or whatnot, but I've been blessed with this like spirituality. I think that just God's like, I've got you. So whether I was living at the in-laws or whether we have a really nice place here in Loomis now. And so the whole time I'm like, none of it's mine anyways. It's all, God's kind of giving it to me all anyways. So I'm not taking it home with me. So if my family's healthy, then
But don't you feel like that, just what you just said right now, none of it's mine anyways, I'm not taking it home with me. That in itself, to me, is a very freeing statement.
Oh, yeah.
That sheds all this stuff, because so many times in my business, I'll bring home all the issues and the challenges and the problems and things. And it's like taking a little cloak off with what you just said.
And it doesn't mean that those things aren't going to happen, right? There's those challenges and stuff. And so it's like, my philosophy is, it's like, I'm going to get in the car every day and I'm going to hit the gas pedal, right? That's like my jump to the gas pedal, but just very loosely hold that steering wheel and let God just like steer me wherever he's going. So I think what people make the mistake of sometimes, they're just sitting there. They don't get in the car and start driving. They're just like, oh, I'm just going to wait to hear. And then nothing ever happens.
Guest number 6 was Raimee Iacofano, and she is a travel influencer. She's had experiences all over the world, and some of them she's had on her own. And one of the things I took away from this meeting with Raimee was that it's important to go out and go for it and to experience things and expand on your horizons. Don't let fear get in the way of getting out there and going for it and learning from other communities and other cultures and experiencing life on the edge out in the world. Go for it, you guys.
And I begged my parents to let me go do that when I was 18 instead of going to college, actually. And they were like, no, you're not doing that. I kind of convinced them, and they were going to let me do it over a summer. But instead of that, I found some internship in London that I did for the summer. But I was always scheming ways I could travel, and now it's led to this now. But it is like that little seed that started to grow because I was watering it with all these things.
So I've never had that travel seed like that.
Yeah. But you have other.
But I had the seed to want to do that with family and take everybody. So my big dream was, and I've talked about it on the show before, my dream was to take all my family on a big trip, which I got to do. So, and spend quality time with them and focus time, and sometimes that works out and sometimes it doesn't, but you know, the goal is to keep trying it and doing it again and again and again. My 7th guest was Jessica Smith, and I picked Jessica because she's this fit little dynamo, and I just thought, wow, I wish I was pulled together like that. And what I learned from her is if you think about fitness and you think about health as your legacy, as generational health, not generational wealth, but generational health, taking care of yourself is taking care of your family. If you don't take care of you, you can't take care of them. So keep that in mind and watch this episode because I think you'll learn a lot.
RV parks or something. Like, I know that sounds so crazy because it's not sexy at all what I'm saying, but the Lord has showed me that. But he has also shown me that I will give people generational health. And right now the world is so focused on generational wealth that they are giving up their generational health. And you cannot get here without here.
That. I love that.
So I feel like at some point he's going to bring into alignment something where it's going to be a beneficial partnership to where I'm also going to be giving, because I know nothing over here. I know nothing about the real estate, the numbers. I've signed up for classes and done that. But the problem is that I have a very busy life over here and I need somebody to fast track me.
But that's it. You can't have generational wealth without generational health. So I'm assuming that's what you want for your kids too.
So what do I want to give my kids? I want to give my kids generational health, right? And I do talk to them about, like, I wish and I don't think this was something that people spoke about back then, but like our time. Freedom.
Guest number 8 was Christopher Brown. And my biggest takeaway from Christopher was reinvention is not failure. If I think about how many times I've reinvented myself, it really makes me laugh because there's been quite a few careers in here. Fashion model, actress, insurance agent, car salesperson, car general manager, real estate person. I even drove heavy equipment one year. So for my summer job. So reinvention, I'm the queen of reinvention. But what's wonderful about it is when you reinvent yourself, it doesn't mean that you're failing. It just means you're starting fresh with a new idea. And you learn more from failure than you do from success. So go fail out there, you guys, and take a listen to what Christopher has to say. To think about you at some point. I mean, you've already knocked on that door.
Yeah.
And you're going on this wonderful path. But what's important for you to leave as a legacy for him and for other people around you?
Yeah, I think what I want him to learn is it's okay to fail. And the failures is where you get good. You know, if all you've had is success, you're not really good. And if you learn to fail, and he's seen me fail, you know, and now that he's gotten older, he's heard more of the failure stories. And those failures made me stronger. Those failures gave me bigger gifts. Those failures brought more things into my life than I could have ever dreamed of. And kids today, I don't think have learned to fail well. And I think they're missing something in that opportunity to fail.
I think it's the anxiety about failure.
Yeah.
There's so much anxiety left over.
Who cares? Run at it.
Yeah.
You know, I always say failure's a liar. Run at it. That's where it gets fun.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, hey, my next guest was Sally Forcier. She has a casting company and she's around movie stars all the time. And she has a fabulous life. But she also had a lot of limiting beliefs. And limiting beliefs are something I deal with every day, and I know you do. It's what you think you can't do. And it's your talk track. It's what role plays in your mind over and over. And here's the thing. Recognize them. Listen to them. And then let them go. Listen to them and say, yeah, I got you, but that's not me. Make sure you don't let them take charge of your life. What I took away from Sally Forcier is that limiting beliefs do not define you. Your mindset defines you. What you tell yourself is what's true. So tell yourself really great things.
You have to focus on what's possible, and you have to dream, and you have to believe. And, you know, when you think about what you want and you get excited, that energy is what's going to attract.
And that's the whole thing. The whole premise behind Tony Robbins and his energy thing.
It is.
Jumping up and down, doing crazy stuff. And I'm like, why are we doing this? He said, you don't understand. It's the energy that sort of pushes the momentum, pushes it into you.
Yeah.
That helps you go forward.
It's beautiful. And I think it's wonderful what you're doing, because at the end of the day, we can all wake up in a funk.
Everybody.
Every day. And, you know, you can let finances, physical pain, challenges, and whatever hold you back. Or maybe you're in that job that you absolutely are miserable about. I can speak to that. I was at a job that I took while I was doing my business with the state of California, producing and directing. Started out great, but then it was for the California Lottery and the show went away. They canceled. They moved me to a different department and I was miserable. I wasn't being utilized. So when you are unhappy, that means you're on the wrong path.
My guest number 10 was Liz Andersen. And, you know, I'm kind of smiling a little bit more. Liz Andersen just sort of is another one of those people that brings joy into your life because she's what I call a human connector. She's all about surrounding herself with the right people. And you become who you surround yourself with. Why did I want her on the show? Because I'm one of those people at a party that falls to the back and hangs on the wall and watches. I'm just not comfortable in large groups, believe it or not. But she is such a connector. She remembers everybody's name. Everybody feels welcome when they're around her. So if you take anything away from this, if you aren't a connector, surround yourself with a connector because that way you will become what you surround yourself with. And I think it's important that people realize how we can learn from other cultures and how we can dream about being more inclusive and we can dream about. So what advice would you give me, like to be more like you, right? Because
you want me to tell you what I tell Scott this all the time, and I'm like, you need to be the one that reaches out. You need to be the person that does the including. If you want that, like I always talk about this, inclusivity goes both ways, right? Mm-hmm. So if I'm going to include you, it's a big deal to me that you are part of my life, my whatever I do. Like I just want those people, like you said earlier, like I want certain people around me. You want to surround yourself around certain people.
Mm-hmm. Guest number 11, Patrick Woods. So my biggest takeaway from Patrick is about living life with purpose. And it's hard to figure out what your purpose is, especially if you're young. Even if you're old like me, it's been a challenge to, everybody talks about your big why. Like, why am I doing this? And to me, a big why is actually a purpose. So he talked about figuring out your purpose and living your purpose and how that's more important than your title or who CEO or this or that. No, are you living your life on purpose? Figure out what your purpose is and go live it.
The thing that I've said a few times this week in those meetings is sometimes we stress out too much about the things that aren't as important and not enough about the things that really are important. Like, are we stressing out about this interaction with this other agent? Are we stressing about this transaction? What we really should be stressing out, was I present for dinner tonight? Right? So that's just something that just constantly is in my head. It could be good, it could be bad.
No, but it's a good, I don't think I've ever thought about it like that.
Yeah, because it's like, this is so
the priority
in the moment, right? And we focus on that. And so there's a lot of times when I've done that. And so I just try to be present and remind myself of that. So for me, big goals, dreams, it really is like at the end of the day, we cut everything out. I've got my wife and I got my boys, and that's my legacy. Those are the things that I'll remember, and I'll be the person they remember. They'll talk about this great big business that Patrick had or Dad had, but they'll remember me being at T-ball.
Guest number 12 on This Dream Is Yours was Linnsey Dolson. And talk about a firecracker. That's the best way I can describe her. Her life was crap. She had terrible things going on. And you know what? What shifted for her was getting out of addiction and living her life like it was rigged in her favor. It's kind of like mindset. If you tell yourself a rotten story, a victim story, you're going to be stuck in that place. So she told herself a different story, and then she lived her life and took action like everything was rigged in her favor. I think you'll really like this one. In a kind of a roundabout way, how do you stay out of comparison? And how do you strive to live your best life, compare it to somebody else that you respect or that you like, or you think I should be doing that because that person's doing that? How do you just take yourself and 10x you or make you feel good about yourself?
Well, I think it's like, I know people always say you get one life and that's so generic, but really not caring. Like when I reached this level, I used to be so embarrassed in my story at first. And when I reached this level of confidence where I don't give a shit what anybody thinks of me because I love myself. Okay. And I think it's just really like, I can't put it out there enough of investing in their self. People do not invest in their self. invest in coaching, invest in your physical appearance. I have extensions, I have eyelashes, I've gotten my nose done, my boobs done, my butt done, my tummy done, and it's not for anybody else. But I feel like when you feel good about yourself, you execute at a whole new level. Like, I live life as though everything's rigged in my favor. There's nothing I won't try doing. You know what I mean? Because like, I just feel like I can't lose. And if I do, who gives a shit? I learn from it and try again. And it's that confidence, right? Is what, because people are so scared. Everything you've ever wanted in life is on the other side of fear. Fear kills more dreams than anybody else. So when you get that confidence.
My last guest on the series, guest number 13, was Bulent. And I have to say, talk about persistent. To fight your way into this country, to start out making $7 an hour as a valet, and to end up owning a restaurant where you park the car of the lady that you valeted way back when. And she comes to eat in your restaurant, having hundreds of employees, and really showing that if you stick to your guns and if you work hard and have a work ethic, persistence pays off. 2009, and by 2020, you own a restaurant in Burlingame?
No, it came to 2009, and I opened my first restaurant in 2017. So 7 years later.
7 years later.
Yes.
From speaking no English.
No English, yep.
Having no money.
No.
Riding the bus, valet parking, to a busser, to getting your own restaurant. That's a pretty intense
it's
journey.
Just a lot of hard working behind this 7 years. I mean, we're talking about 7 years is a short time, but it was just try to figure it out to the culture,
right?
Learning the English, and then working, not listening to everybody, just working and do whatever your responsibility. And just do your job, and that's what I did. And everything I did it, I just step up and I step up, and the people give me the more opportunity, and people give me the more and responsibility.
So wrapping this whole thing up, you guys, out of all these people, I learned something from everyone. And if you can take something away as an overview from This Dream Is Yours, it's go out and have a dream. Go out and have a dream, make it happen. And if you fail, it's okay, but be persistent, have courage, and live your life big, because this is the only round you have. So take advantage. And who knows what's going to happen with me next? I'll keep you posted. It could be something different and exciting, and maybe I'll get a show on TV. Wouldn't that be fun? And you guys could watch me there. Have a great one, and thanks so much for taking care and taking time with me on This Dream Is Yours.